Hello people, Daniel from Devil & Sons Guitars here, and today I'm going to teach you 6 different ways to tie your strings. Now when I say tie your strings, I mean how do we attach them to the machine heads at the headstock of your guitar. There are lots of different ways to do that, and today I'm going to show you my favourite ways. I'm going to show you ways that I've seen on the internet that other people use, and the basic way that I did when I first started playing guitar, which is the most simple way. I'm also going to show you how not to do it, which is very important. You've got to learn what's wrong. So in this video I'm going to be using a machine head like this one. This is by Grover. Lots of companies make very similar ones that go through the headstock. So this is on the back, and the peg sticks through the top, the front, and in the peg you can see there's a hole just there, and that's the hole that the string will slot through. In this video I'm going to be using a guitar I've just customised for Zacharias from Inner Axis. It originally was a Dean Razorback and it's been very heavily customised. You can see photos of the process on my Instagram and Facebook pages, but essentially it was a guitar that he already owned, that he really liked, the one he uses most on stage, so he knew it was a guitar he was confident with, but he wanted to really spice it up and make it look more interesting and fit his style of music. And that's something I often do with customers. Take their guitars they already own and work with them to evolve them into something totally unique. So the great thing about a headstock like this, like a standard Les Paul with 3 tuners on each side, is that it gives me the opportunity to show you how it would work if you have a guitar like this, but also if you had one like a standard Fender with all the tuning pegs at the top, or a reverse headstock with all of them at the bottom. So basically if the tuning peg's at the bottom, then what you want is when the string goes round it, you want it to wrap around like this, not like that on the outside. Goes on the outside, it looks really ugly, and it means when it gets to the next one it's going to be interfering with the post before, so it's always going to be going on the inside like that, which means that once you put your string through, you're going to be turning your string, your tuning peg, towards the guitar for tuning pegs that are at the bottom or on a reverse headstock, to wrap it round like that. Whereas if you were using the tuning pegs that are along the top, or you had a classic kind of Fender with all your tuning pegs along the top, your string would go in like this and you would turn your tuning peg away from the guitar to tighten it. Now if you've got an odd shaped headstock, I mean a lot of the guitars I make have very weird headstocks, then you might want to just double check when you're putting the strings on that when you're turning them so that the string pulls, so it's not either hanging on the outside of the guitar once it comes through the nut, or interfering with the tuning pegs in front. During this video I'll be filming from 2 angles so you can see exactly how this works. But for now let's get down to the bench and look at method 1. So the first way to do it is put the string through. I'm going to start with the top E. I'm just going to thread it slightly through the string winder. I haven't cut the string at all, so the ball end is at the bridge at the moment, and using my string winder on my screwdriver I'm just going to tighten it up. And I'll actually speed this video up. There we go. Now that's the wrong way to do it, not least because it took so long, but also because there's so many wraps around the tuning peg and you don't need that many wraps. That many wraps means there's much more chance of slippage there, and what you want on a correctly tied string is as little chance for slipping anywhere, in fact no slipping, and that will help keep it in tune. Now this was the top E, so the string's really thin, so it could go round quite a few times, but if you imagine that with something like the low E, how bulky and built up that would be. It would look ugly, it wouldn't be strong, total waste of time. Okay, so here we go with the second method, which is the second string, the B string, and what I'm going to do here is show you the best way for all the methods really to trim your string. So essentially you're going to pull the string, again the ball end at the bridge is in place, you're going to pull it over the nut, you're going to pull it to the machine head, the peg that it's going through, in this case this second peg along here, and what you need is to cut it a distance once it's gone through the peg. Now I always advise for that distance to take the length of the gap between two machine heads here, and take that 1.5 times. So that's 1 time, that's 2 times. A lot of people say you can cut it 2 times, which is here, but I think sometimes that's a bit long, so I go about halfway between it there. So if I was measuring from the first peg, I'd go 1.5 and cut here. But here we've only got 3, we run out of space, so I'm just measuring it with my fingers, 1.5 here. So I'll just use my clippers to clip the string. There we go. And then I will thread it through the hole of the tuning peg. And now before I tighten it, I'm going to make sure it's through the nut. Now this has got a locking nut on it. A normal nut would just have 1 slot. This has got 2 because it's going to have the bar that goes in here and holds it in place. So it's going over the nut, through here, ready to turn. So then I pull it back, so there's just a small amount showing through the end of the peg, through the hole. And then with this finger, on my other hand, I'm going to hold it down so that it's at the place where the nut's going to be. And this time I'll start by hand, and then I'll carry on with my string winder on my screwdriver. So remember, at the bottom ones here, we want to turn it towards the body. So I will start turning it, and this method is what I would just call the beginner method, or the sort of simple method, which is it's going through here, I'm turning it round, and as it goes round, like at this point here, I'm just going to pull back on the string slightly, but not pulling it all the way through, just so there's a bit of tension here on this gap here. I'm not pulling it too tight because I want to pull it back out. And now it's round enough, I can pull much harder on here and it's not going to come out. So what I'm doing now with my hand that's not turning the tuning peg is I'm pulling the string, but at the same time I'm just resting it on the nut, and then I'm going to turn it. Now even with 1.5 machine head pegs extra of string, it's a good few turns. So let's just switch to my string winder on my screwdriver. You absolutely don't need to have string winders. I'm just feeling lazy. I would also speed it up for you. Great. And from above we can see that at this angle, because the string's coming over the nut and around the top of the tuning peg, it's not going to interfere with the tuning peg behind. Whereas if it went round the bottom, it would catch on here. Right, so here we're doing the G string for the third way to do it. Exactly the same as before. I'm going to thread it through the pole. I'm going to measure about 1.5 gaps between the tuning pegs as where I cut the string. I'm going to pull it back. This is the method I used for years when I first started tuning my own guitars, and it's similar to what we just did, where we put it through and just wrap it round, but this time we're going to try and lock the string in place to stop it slipping. So you can see here it's going through the hole on the tuning peg, and again I'm going to push the string down onto the nut of the guitar, and I'm just going to start turning it. So I'm turning it towards the guitar for the bottom tuners. If this was at the top, I will be turning it away from the guitar, as we've already discussed. I've got a bit sticking through, which you can see there. Great. Now as it turns and it's pointing back towards the guitar, I'm going to lift the string up a bit, pull it round, and so it goes over the top. So you can see it's over the top of that little bit that's pointing back, and then I'm going to carry on turning. So now it's holding that bit of string that was through the bar downwards. And once we get all the way round again, so back to this point, I can start pulling the string. I'm always applying tension on it as I'm pulling it back away. I'm going to put it back to the nut, making sure it's not got caught on the tuning peg here, and I'm holding it down at the nut, and now it's going to wrap around the tuning peg. And my aim here is to keep this bit going underneath again. So I'm going to lift it up, let it go underneath, and then pull down. And now I'm just going to hold the string down here. Oops. Hold the string down here, and that will just keep it in place as it turns. So you can see as it's coming round that what I'm doing is I just keep pushing the string down. Let's lift it up again. So let that bit pass under and then push down again. I speed it up a bit. You can see what it's doing here is that the wraps are just pushing down on that bit of string. So that's now held quite tightly in place. There'll be no slipping on there. There we go. So this is the fourth method, the fourth string, the D string, which goes at the top tuning peg, the end one along the top edge. So what I'll do is my normal method, I'll measure 1.5 spaces along, which is here, and cut my string. Now this method I'm about to show you is quite similar to the last one, where we're trying to clamp the string in place, but instead of just clamping it in one place, we're going to clamp it above and below. Now this is the method I've been using for years. So I put the string through, so it's just through a tiny bit, and this is quite awkward to do on the camera, but I'm going to do it by hand and turn the tuning peg. So this time, because it's on the top, I'm turning the tuning peg away from the guitar body. And I'll speed bits up so you don't have to watch it all. Let's see if we can do it wrong-handed. Here we go. And what I'm going to do is make sure just a small bit of the string is pointing through the tuning peg. Here you can see it's going through it. And what I'm going to do the first time round is, as it comes, so the string is pointing back towards the body, I'm going to pull the rest of the string taut. I'm going to hold it in place at the nut, and I'm going to let the string go under the first bit that went through the body, like this. So you can see it's going under, and just as it goes past the string, I'm going to pull up on it a bit, so it's pulling up, as you can see, so it's touching the string. As I said, this is a method I've been using for quite a few years now. I think it's my favourite method. And I keep turning until that original bit of the string is pointing back towards the body. And when it's pointing back towards the body, this time I let it go under the string that I'm holding tight, just like that. And once it's gone under, I then pull down on the string like this. Again, it's very awkward to do for the camera here. So as you can see, it's sort of pinching the string in place. Let's swap hands, I'm doing it the correct way here. And now I just want my strings to stay looping round, but looping underneath the previous loops. And what you can see as the string's coming back round now is that it's actually been pinched between the first and the second loop there. The string in place of the nut, you can see just there, it's been pinched, and this new loop is going under the previous loop. Here we go with the fifth way. It's very similar to the last one. I've already cut my string. I'm going to push the string through so it's sticking out a little bit, and then I'm going to wrap it around the tuning peg like so. So it's going over the top of the string, and then I'm just going to turn the machine head again turning it away from the body because it's along the top, and essentially it's doing the same as the last method. So the first wrap that I did by hand is going above the string, and all the rest are going to go below the string to pinch it in place. I'm not really sure why I don't do this all the time, because it's more or less exactly the same as the last method, except it's a bit faster. Just hold it in place in the nut and finish turning. Here we go with the 6th string. I'll put it through. It's the 6th method. It's also maybe the hardest string to demonstrate with because it's the thickest string. I'll wrap it round like this, so it goes back under the string. Pull it up and hook it over. So it makes a hook basically there, which means that now the string's on the nut. As it turns around, it's going to pull against the bit that's been knotted. It's basically like a hook or a knot there, and it holds it in place. Okay, I know what you're thinking. That isn't really 6 methods, because the first method was how not to do it. So what I'm going to do is go back to the first string, which I've unwound, and pull it through. So it's a bit twisted because I've unwound it. Pull it through. I'm going to simply wrap it round. This is what I might call the knot method. Wrap it round twice, push it back through the hole, pull it tight. So I'm just sort of knotting it there. It's quite hard to hold because of the camera and because of the fact it's a bit bent already. And then turn the post. There you go. So it's quite a quick method, quite a messy method, but it works. Great, well thanks for watching. What would be really helpful for me and future viewers is to let us know below what method you use for tying your strings, so we can see what the most popular is. Maybe there's a method here that you really like, or that you really don't like, or maybe there's a whole different one that you use. For now I'm going to go off and take this custom guitar that I've more or less finished for Zacharias of Interaxis. I'm going to take it off and tune it up using the videos that I've made for how Floyd Rose Bridge works and the full setup. Then I'm going to give it a bit of a play before I send it back to him. So until my next video, happy strumming.